Whereabouts? Michelle? Michelle?
Oh, God, what about her?
She went missing.
And have you guys tried calling her? I have no idea how to help you with that. I've actually been trying to look for her.
Since when?
Almost a week now, to tell her to stay away from my daughter.
And talking to her friends and such, we understand that you guys had a tumultuous relationship?
A tumultuous relationship? She was my best friend who slept with my then fiancé.
On the evening of May 20th, 2011, a 26-year-old nursing student walked into a hospital parking garage in Hayward, California, expecting to return to her shift within minutes. She never came back. By the next morning, her disappearance had triggered a full-scale investigation, one that would eventually expose a calculated crime driven by jealousy and obsession. Michelle Lay was completing her clinical placement at Kaiser Permanente Hayward Medical Center as part of an accelerated nursing program at Samuel Merritt University. That Friday marked her final day at the hospital before the weekend, and the atmosphere among students was noticeably lighter. Many were making plans, relieved to be nearing the end of an intense academic period. Michelle herself had arranged to visit friends in Reno. At approximately 6:55 p.m., Michelle informed her supervisor that she needed to retrieve something from her car. She said she would be gone for only a few minutes. Surveillance footage later showed her entering the third-floor parking garage and walking toward her white Honda SUV, parked in a corner space. She reached the vehicle, paused briefly, then walked away. Moments later, she stopped again, changed direction, and moved out of the camera's view. That was the last confirmed image of Michelle Lay alive. 17 minutes later, Michelle's Honda SUV was recorded speeding out of the parking garage. At the time, no one inside the hospital was aware that anything was wrong. Michelle was known among her peers and instructors as responsible, dependable, and meticulous. When she failed to return, concern quickly turned into alarm. By around 9 p.m., her instructor noticed that Michelle's purse and lab coat were still in the staff room. She had not signed out, and repeated calls to her phone went unanswered. The instructor contacted hospital security and went to the parking garage to check Michelle's usual parking space. The area was silent and empty. Within minutes, Michelle's white Honda suddenly re-entered the garage and drove back up to the third floor. The instructor began waving, attempting to stop the driver. The vehicle slowed briefly, then reversed, drove past her, and exited the garage again. The instructor later stated that the behavior was entirely inconsistent with Michelle's character and that she was unconvinced Michelle had been driving the car. Police were notified immediately. Michelle Lay was not the kind of person to disappear without explanation. She came from a close-knit family and lived with her parents and her younger brother, Michael. After their mother, a nurse, passed away, Michelle took on a maternal role within the household. She helped raise her brother, taught him practical life skills, and became a source of emotional stability for the family. Her decision to pursue nursing was deeply connected to her desire to honor her mother's legacy. Academically, Michelle excelled. She had waited nearly 5 years for acceptance into nursing school and approached the opportunity with determination and discipline. By 2011, she was earning straight A's and was just 6 months away from graduation. Friends described her as kind, patient, and unfailingly positive, someone who worked hard and stayed closely connected to those she loved. By the following morning, more than 10 hours had passed since anyone had last seen Michelle. Around 15 of her friends and classmates gathered at the police station, insisting that her disappearance was deeply out of character and demanding an immediate investigation. Detectives returned to the hospital parking garage, where they made a disturbing discovery: blood on the ground near the space where Michelle's Honda had been parked. The case quickly escalated from a missing person inquiry to a potential violent crime. At approximately 9 a.m., police located Michelle's vehicle. It was found locked and neatly parked in a visitor's space outside an apartment complex about half a mile from the hospital. Inside the car were Michelle's laptop and an unfamiliar Samuel Merritt University ID card on the back seat. Investigators later confirmed that the ID card belonged to another student and had been reported stolen several days before Michelle disappeared. This detail shifted the direction of the investigation. Detectives began to suspect that the perpetrator was not a random stranger, but someone familiar with the hospital environment. Someone who knew how to gain access and had knowledge of Michelle's schedule. Further evidence soon reinforced that belief. Hospital records showed that approximately 30 minutes after Michelle entered the parking garage, a call was placed to the emergency department. The caller identified herself as Michelle Lay and asked to be connected to her instructor. When told she had reached the wrong department, the caller requested that a message be passed along claiming Michelle's father had suffered a heart attack. At the same time, Michelle's family began receiving unusual text messages from her phone. Her brother Michael received a message stating simply, "I'm fine." Another followed, claiming her phone was malfunctioning and deleting messages. Soon after, Michelle's friends began receiving texts in rapid succession, each offering a different explanation. She had a flat tire, she was in Reno, she was sick, she needed a break from social media. When Michelle's ex-boyfriend attempted to contact her, the response he received was brief and unsettling. "Who is this?" For those who knew Michelle well, this confirmed their worst fears. Someone else was controlling her phone. As days passed without any confirmed sightings, the search intensified. A reward was offered and steadily increased. Michelle's family hired a private investigator, and more than 100 volunteers formed organized search teams, covering vast areas of Northern California. Despite the extensive effort, no trace of Michelle was found. Investigators began closely examining Michelle's personal relationships. As they did, one name surfaced repeatedly: Giselle Esteban, a former close friend. Michelle and Giselle had known each other for years and had once been inseparable. They had moved together for college and shared a close bond. However, their friendship had deteriorated after Giselle entered a turbulent relationship with a man named Scott, with whom she shared a daughter. Although Michelle and Scott had briefly dated before Giselle and Scott became a couple, the relationship never progressed beyond friendship. Despite this, Giselle became convinced that Michelle was involved with Scott. Her fixation grew more intense over time, and her behavior toward both Michelle and Scott became increasingly hostile. By the time Michelle disappeared, the friendship had fully collapsed, replaced by resentment and obsession.
I asked you, can we just be honest about Michelle? Because she's the one issue that I really, really am having a hard time dealing with.
That's not what you said at all.
Yes. Okay,
We
well
didn't
then
talk for
fine.
days.
Starting from now, we are going to be honest about Michelle. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Whether you sleep with her, whether you share food with her, whether you talk to her, you will be honest with me. Look at me. You will be honest with me regarding her. Otherwise, I will take your life and hers.
Mom.
And you can take that to the grave with you.
Why?
Why? Because you lied about her so many times, it's hard to believe that you didn't sleep with her and knock her up. You deserve to die for your lies, as does she. And you will. If you do it again, this is your last and final warning.
Why?
Do you understand me? It's your last and final warning.
At this stage, investigators could not yet prove Giselle's involvement. But as they would soon discover, the evidence against her was mounting. As the search for Michelle Lay continued with no results, investigators focused their attention on Giselle Esteban. The hostility Giselle had expressed toward Michelle was no longer viewed as mere emotional instability. It was now considered a possible motive for a violent crime. Detectives brought the 27-year-old Giselle in for questioning.
At one point, you and Michelle were close friends, is that right?
I considered her my sister.
And then, what happened?
She made a mistake. Scott made a mistake.
And then, was that when you were with Scott? Or had you guys broken up? Or
No, we were still together. They made the mistake twice.
were you surprised to see Michelle there?
Yes.
How did it make you feel when you saw her?
At first, surprised, and then annoyed, and then I thought, okay, keep your blood pressure down, otherwise you're gonna lose this baby.
At the time, she was several months pregnant and appeared outwardly calm. During the interview, she admitted that she had been at Kaiser Permanente Hayward Medical Center on the night Michelle disappeared, claiming she had gone there for a medical checkup. She also acknowledged that she and Michelle had once been close, referring to Michelle as like a sister, before stating that Michelle had betrayed her. Despite the inconsistencies in her statements, Giselle was released. However, police did not stop watching her. They placed a tracking device on her vehicle, believing she was concealing critical information. As investigators continued piecing together the timeline, new evidence emerged. Michelle's ex-boyfriend Scott contacted police with a startling discovery. He had found Michelle's phone in the back seat of his own car. This immediately raised suspicion. Data from the tracker showed Giselle's vehicle making repeated trips down Scott Street and stopping near his home. Detectives concluded that Giselle had likely planted the phone there in an attempt to divert suspicion. Attention then turned to the stolen Samuel Merritt University ID card found in Michelle's car. Security logs revealed that the card had been used inside the nursing school building on May 26, 2011, one day before Michelle disappeared. Surveillance footage confirmed that the person using the card was Giselle Esteban. Footage showed Giselle entering the building under false pretenses, claiming to be a prospective student. She was seen testing locked doors, wandering hallways, and eventually entering classrooms. Later that night, after the building had largely emptied, she returned through a back entrance wearing a white lab coat. She moved through the classrooms again, checking computers and files. At one point, Giselle approached a desk and examined student schedules. Investigators determined that she had accessed information detailing Michelle's clinical placement and break times. After approximately 90 minutes inside the building, Giselle left. By then, she knew exactly where and when Michelle would be the following day. Cell phone analysis provided further confirmation. Records showed that Michelle's phone and Giselle's phone were together in the same locations after Michelle went missing. The following day, Giselle was captured on surveillance cameras inside an Apple store, asking technicians to unlock an iPhone. She claimed her daughter had accidentally locked it. The phone was unlocked, and Giselle left with it. Shortly afterward, she was recorded inside a Chuck E. Cheese, using the phone to send messages. Cell tower data confirmed that this was Michelle's phone. These were the same messages that had been sent to Michelle's family and friends, offering contradictory explanations for her absence. At this point, investigators believed they had enough evidence to act. Giselle Esteban was arrested at her home and charged with first-degree murder. During the search of her residence, police found a pair of shoes near the door. The soles tested positive for Michelle Lay's blood. A strand of hair recovered from inside Michelle's car was matched to Giselle through DNA analysis. Giselle's DNA was also found on the steering wheel of the Honda SUV. Though Michelle's body had not yet been found, the volume of physical and digital evidence was overwhelming. Authorities made it clear that they were no longer dealing with a missing person case, but a homicide investigation. Despite the arrest, Michelle's family remained without answers about her whereabouts. They continued searching, refusing to give up hope of bringing her home. 10 days after Giselle's arrest, on September 17, 2011, search teams made a grim discovery. Human remains were found in a shallow grave in a remote, rugged area of Northern California, approximately 12 miles from Giselle Esteban's home. The remains were skeletal, making it impossible to determine an exact cause of death. The Alameda County coroner later confirmed that the remains belonged to Michelle Lay. The confirmation devastated Michelle's family. 3 months after her disappearance, the search was over. But their grief was only beginning. Further investigation into Giselle's background revealed the depth of her obsession. A review of her computer showed that in the days leading up to Michelle's disappearance, Giselle had searched for topics including how to induce a heart attack without leaving a trace, how to follow someone without being detected, how to break locks, and information about toxic substances. After Michelle went missing, Giselle searched Michelle's name more than 300 times. In September 2012, Giselle Esteban went to trial after pleading not guilty. During the proceedings, she admitted to killing Michelle but claimed the act was unplanned. Her defense argued that the killing occurred in the heat of the moment, provoked by confrontation, and should be classified as voluntary manslaughter rather than first-degree murder. Giselle did not testify in her own defense. Throughout the trial, observers noted her lack of visible emotion. She sat silently, often staring blankly, showing no outward signs of remorse. Prosecutors presented evidence of planning, surveillance, identity theft, and deception, arguing that the crime was deliberate and calculated. The prosecution theorized that Giselle confronted Michelle in the parking garage and attacked her with a sharp object, explaining the blood found at the scene. They argued that Michelle was incapacitated quickly, allowing Giselle to place her into the vehicle and drive away unnoticed. The district attorney described Giselle as a sociopath and emphasized that the crime was not spontaneous. According to the prosecution, this was a targeted assault on someone who never saw it coming. The jury agreed. Giselle Esteban was found guilty of first-degree murder. When the verdict was read, she showed no visible reaction and left the courtroom without speaking. Later, she reportedly stated that if she had been on the jury, she likely would have convicted herself as well. At sentencing, the judge stated that he had never seen a case with such overwhelming and condemning evidence in his career. Giselle Esteban was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Michelle's family expressed disappointment that the sentence was not life without the possibility of parole. They acknowledged that each future parole hearing would reopen old wounds and force them to relive their loss. Michelle's brother Michael spoke emotionally about his sister's dreams of becoming a nurse and following in their late mother's footsteps. Those dreams, he said, were stolen in a hospital parking garage. In the years following the trial, Michelle's family chose to honor her memory by helping others. They volunteered with organizations dedicated to finding missing persons and raising awareness for unresolved cases. Michael later said that believing his sister was reunited with their mother brought him some comfort, even amid profound grief. Giselle Esteban later gave birth to a son while in custody. The child was placed with the father. Rumors circulated regarding the child's paternity, but no official confirmation was ever made public. Michelle Lay's cousin later reflected that Giselle's actions had ultimately revealed her own darkness while highlighting Michelle's kindness and integrity. The case remains a stark reminder of how unchecked jealousy and obsession can escalate into irreversible violence. Michelle Lay is remembered not for the way her life ended, but for the compassion, dedication, and quiet strength she showed in the years she lived. Her story continues to serve as both a warning and a tribute, a reminder of what was lost and of the responsibility to recognize the warning signs before obsession turns deadly.